Hello, Luke here. I would just like to take a moment to disclose upfront that we sometimes talk about sensitive topics in our podcasts, and in fairness to our audience, we will try our best to put specific warnings in the descriptions of each episode. Now on with the show.
CG, I'm moon horizon. CG, I mummies on the way. CG, I scarabs used to be frightening. CG, I look so bad nowadays. But don't turn the movie off. Weisz and Fraser are still smoking hot, as well as the guy with tattoos under his eyes.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That was actually really good.
I know, I was proud of that one. I literally came up with that as I was saying, I was just like, I have a fucking song. I came up with that over coffee. Dude, caffeine for the win. That's yeah.
Uppers will do that to a person.
Exactly. All I had to do was take a bunch of stimulants and all of a sudden everything came to me.
Yeah, full disclosure, I know we were talking about ideas for this, for the little song, and you sent me one and I was like, yeah, that works just because I can't do better, but in reality, I was like, I don't know about that 100%. So
Yeah.
I'm glad this is a lot better.
Yeah, originally I was trying to do a riff on One Step Closer by Linkin Park.
Oh.
It was going to be Imhotep Closer to the Edge, and I'm about
Too
to
many
break.
syllables.
Yeah, it was way
It's
too
fun.
many.
It's fun. It's fun.
Oh, anyways, let's get started here, people. Welcome to the Nostalgia Killers podcast, where we revisit films from our youth to see if they still hold up or should be inserted into the great DVD player in the sky. I'm Chuck Starzenski, joined once again by Javier Martinez,
Glad to be here.
as well as Julia Kaplan.
Oh, hey guys, what's up?
And we watched The Mummy, the 1997 Mummy, because there's a few mummies out there.
Where did you get this?
On a dig down in Thebes.
Jonathan, I think you found something.
There is an ancient legend of a place known as the City of the Dead.
We call it the doorway to hell.
Where the earliest pharaohs were said to have hidden the wealth of Egypt. Are we going into battle?
There's something out there. Something underneath that sand.
They came to uncover its secrets.
Mummies, my good son. This is where they made the mummies.
They sought to unlock its treasure.
And then there was light.
Oh, boy.
What they did
Oh my God. It does exist.
I think this may be the Book of the Dead.
was unleash a force unlike any the world has ever known.
You must not read from the book!
You have unleashed the creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years.
He will regenerate and no longer be the undead.
We are in serious trouble.
You swim! If the occasion calls for it!
Trust me! It calls for it!
Universal Pictures invites you
His powers are growing.
Run! This just keeps getting better and better.
to experience the adventure
It appears he's already chosen his human sacrifice.
that will live forever.
If he turns me into a mummy, you're the first one I'm coming after.
Go!
The Mummy.
I have a log line for it. I don't know if anyone else does. An archaeological team accidentally awakens Imhotep, an immortal mummy. That's what I got.
Short and
pretty
sweet
much
to the
sums it
point.
up.
Sweet, yeah.
You got the gist right there.
But yeah, let's get right into it. Julia, what's your nostalgic attachment for this film, or do you have any?
So I have some nostalgic attachment. So I was, full disclosure, not allowed to watch this movie growing up. My parents were like, "No, this will corrupt you. This is this is bad. This
They
is bad
knew.
stuff." And I remember I caught some of it. It was either at like a sleepover or like a relative's house, but it was somewhere where I my parents did not have control over the television, saw one of the many bug scenes and was immediately traumatized.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh no, do these really exist? This is horrible. Oh God.
Yeah.
So my main nostalgic connection with The Mummy is fear.
Yeah. It's a good one to have. Yeah.
And disgust.
Yeah, so right, this came out in 99, so I was 7 when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters, but I definitely saw it as soon as it was available to rent at the local video store, RIP Silver Screen, real ones. But yeah, we rented it, and in a way, it was quote quote my first horror movie. Right, I had some of those same. I had said, again, 7, 8 years old.
Yep.
I had some of those same fears, and it was pretty freaky at the time. So for sure, I remember it's one of the first scary movies I watched.
Well, ookum spookum.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 9 when this came out, and I absolutely loved it. I'd argue that this movie, I mean, people are going to murder me for saying this, but I would argue this movie had more of an effect on me as an adventure film than Indiana Jones did as a kid.
For sure.
Yeah, I must have watched it like easily over a dozen times growing up. I've already touched on it, but the scarab scenes freaked me the fuck out as a kid. It took so much work for people to talk me off the ledge and out of believing that beetles could actually burrow under your skin like that. Like, aside from being gross, it's probably the reason, like, subconsciously, why I've never been a huge fan of cockroaches.
Same.
Is because, they're like the closest insect to a spooky, ooky scarab that I've ever encountered in real life. So I'm like, oh, no. Like, they get you sick, and then they burrow under your skin, and they get in your brain, and the cockroaches take over, and, like, they ratatouille you, and, like, it's like, no.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They latch onto your brainstem.
Yeah, and I think every kid growing up in that time definitely thought those were real.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I'm still convinced that they're real. I'm still, like, 90% certain that there's something weird out there, and it's like, I don't know. If I go in that cave, scarabs.
Yeah, I looked
it up.
Know. That was one of the first things that happened when I was doing research for this film was like there was a bunch of just kind of clickbaity like articles that were like, no, scarabs can't kill you. Here's 10 reasons why. Like it was just like a lot of that kind of just listicles about like they're just beetles. It's okay.
Although, fun fact, I guess they actually created, I don't know if you could even call it an early AI or like they created a computer program to simulate beetles.
Really?
Yeah. And so each of the beetles in the big beetle scenes where they're like crawling in and rushing in are all individually generated. And then they created like they took different parts of different nasty little insecties and glued them together to make one big ugly bastard. And those are the scarabs. So it's like this movie, one thing that I did not realize about it going in was just how like relatively, so the advanced the CGI actually was.
Yeah, well, it was advanced at the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
It's aged.
Yeah,
It's
I got
aged.
some comments on that, but we'll get there.
She's a little saggy now, but
Yeah. She used to look good. She probably shouldn't be wearing the, tube top anymore, but she used to look great. I want to defend her and her choices, okay? Like, also, I'm not going to body shame the mummy. She can do whatever she wants.
Queen, we stan.
Exactly. And on that note, what are some favorite scenes for you guys?
I mean, the torture scene right at the beginning is so ridiculous.
That's what I have that as well.
It's like you see these. First off, you're dropped into this world with minimal context. It's like, oh, it's Egypt. Great. What's happening? and then all of a sudden you see these funny little shiny bald men. And then the next thing you know, the funny little shiny bald men are being tortured, but it looks less like they're being tortured and more like it's like BDSM, like sugar walls kind of thing. Like,
yeah, no, I don't remember. Like, I watched this last night and I do not remember the intro being so fucking unhinged. Like, I was like, whoa, this is like full on bad, like a bad theater production of like a play about, the plagues of Egypt.
Yeah. It's like someone had access to a lot of silver body paint and potentially amphetamines.
Yeah, there was a moment with some of the workers or slaves or whatever they're supposed to be. I think they were priests, actually.
Priests,
priests, yeah. But there was a couple moments when they're like fully encased in their gold body paint, and I was like, oh, like there were a couple of them. I was like, is that the Blue Man Group? Like, did we get the Blue Men?
It's just the Blue Man Group.
It's just the Blue Men.
Plot
they're
twist.
the Gold Men. Yeah,
they're the Gold Men for this, but they're the Blue Men Group normally.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I had that scene as well on mine, and yeah, because again, quote was one of the first scary kind of movies that I watched, so that's like a great, at that age, that's a great opening to a film. I was like, what the fuck am I about to watch? Oh my god, mummification! And yeah, I was 7, so I don't think I learned about mummies at that point, right? Because I would have been like 2nd grade or something like that. So yeah, it was scary to see, like, is that really what happened? Is that how, because I knew what a mummy was, but I didn't know
the whole process of like, first.
Digging out from their brain and whatever. And I was like, oh, and, I was like, did they put him in there with beetles? Like, was that like a thing all the time? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, this movie definitely like did a lot of uneducating for me. Because like there's definitely like, I definitely had like read like one of those like DK, like those white cover books that are like all about Egypt or all about mummies or whatever kind of thing. And then, this movie deprogrammed me. Like, I was like, nope, scarabs eat your brain. And you can totally bring people back to life. Nope, this is a factual film here.
I will say some of the facts that are most interesting from that first scene that got played around with are all 3 of the characters that kind of are the main moving pieces of that puzzle. Yeah, none of them lived at the same time. They were all like a few hundred years apart. They were all real people, which is neat. So Imhotep was a real person. He was an architect, though, and a physician and all-around good guy, and was actually made a demigod after his death because people were like, wow, that's a cool guy. And Seti the First was also a real dude. He reigned after, I want to say it was Ramses the First, who only reigned for a little bit. And so he was cool, actually reigned during the 19th dynasty, so that's accurate. Anksunaman. So she really existed. She was the daughter of Akhenaten, and she also existed at a totally different time and was apparently briefly married to Tutankhamun.
The more you know.
The more you know. Learn something new every
lesson.
day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do some re-education after the mummy gets us nice and stupid.
Just unsmooth brain me, please.
Yeah. I'll make you nice and wrinkly.
As far as like, I'll throw one out there. The entire Americans versus British, like, race to the temple. Whole segment is like one of my favorite things in the movie. Like, where it's like, 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 we're going to get there first. And it's like, hey, Benny, you're on the wrong side of the river. And like, oh, like just like the whole cat and like the whole chase, the whole cat and mouse. There's like the fun like camel race and like all of that. And I don't even know if this is even counts as just like one scene, but yeah, just the finding of the tomb and like the scarab, beetle, and acid deaths.
Yeah.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
like
the
when they're
salt
acid. Yeah, because when
salt acid.
I was like, what the fuck is that supposed to be? And it's like, oh yes, of course. Salt acid from 10,000 BC. Like, yes, that is exactly what that is.
Like, that makes sense. Got it.
Of course. Right.
Yeah, and the whole like awakening Imhotep scene and like, Benny, like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm hitting
Go
with
for
like
it.
a ton
Get
of scenes.
into it.
Benny, when he first encounters Imhotep and he's like trying to pray and he just
that's one of my favorite scenes.
That's one of my favorite scenes of all time, where he's got all of the religions of the world on his neck. He like starts with the cross, then he's like, oh, okay, we're gonna pray to Allah. No, we're gonna Judaism, Taoism, Scientology, fuck it, like,
Yeah. I remember even as a kid, I was like, oh, that guy's slimy. He doesn't believe all that on all those things. Like, that doesn't make sense. I don't think you can I don't think they mix.
I also had Brendan Fraser's yell off with the zombie mummy warriors at the end. For some reason, that really just stuck out in my mind. Like, this is the definition of this movie.
This is peak cinema right here, people.
This is it, boys. We can't get any higher than this.
Another nostalgia point for me, and I promised myself I wouldn't, make the entire podcast about this, but it sounds like pre-podcast we all had some similar ideas. But Rachel Weisz, Evie, for me at that age, I think that was honestly, I tried, all of yesterday to remember deep in my memories, and I think that was literally the first time I ever was like, wow, that is a gorgeous woman. Not just like, ooh la la, I got, but more like, oh, like just her smile and everything. Like, she's like, that is a beautiful, beautiful person. I like her. She's a beautiful person.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz so I've only ever seen her movies from like the last 10 years or so. So I'm more used to like the Rachel Weisz that, you know, has a few more like lines on her face. She's a little older, whatever. She was just, I mean, she's stunning now. She was like,
absolutely.
Whoa, like, let me just go get my shades real quick because, wow, blowing me away, girl.
And it takes place in the 30s, so she's got like that hot little like kind of Marilyn Monroe, like Greta Garbo kind of like old Hollywood thing about her with the curls and like,
Yeah.
As long as we're on that subject too. Can't talk about sexual awakenings and confusion without bringing up our boy Oded Feher.
Oh, I had that on there. Yeah, I was like, hey,
mama.
This film is fair. It gives everybody something. Yeah. Whatever you're into, because I was like, you know what? Yeah, Brandon Fraser, Oded.
No,
bravissimo. Whoever did the casting for this, I mean, just, you have good taste.
Yeah.
It was funny. I'll still steal one bit of trivia from later in the trivia section if you guys saw that. But originally, the Magi were supposed to be all tatted up, like head to toe. But I don't know, the director or the caster or whoever did that was like, we can't do that to him. He's too gorgeous.
Yeah.
So they said just 2 on the cheek and that's it. You know.
Yeah. Oh, he was like
that makes sense.
He was honestly Oded Feher. I'm probably going to butcher his name. I'm so sorry.
Oded Feher. Oded Feher.
He's just like stunningly dreamy. I mean, I obviously like, you know, you think of this movie and you think of Brendan Fraser, you think of Rachel Weisz and you're like, oh yeah, of course, you know, beauty. But that beautiful man, when he rides up and is all sitting there and looking up, yeah, you protect that Pharaoh. You protect all that gold. You're gonna fire a machine gun at some bugs? You do that. I support you, baby.
Another scene I've got really quick is recruiting Winston and then the whole flight with him.
Yeah.
Where it's like talking the old like drunkard like war pilot into it, and he's like, you know, it's like, I wish I would have went down in the great battle, son, like and all that. And it's like when Brandon's like, I got a job for you. He's like, will I survive? I'm like, probably not. Perfect, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Allegedly, that was a reference to Porco Rosso.
Really?
By Hayao Miyazaki. I don't know if that carries any water, but I really like the idea that it's a reference to Porco Rosso, so I'm sticking with it. It's a reference to Porco Rosso.
I like Porco Rosso. That one's really underrated. Also, that's in that camp, though, of like the studio, not to get totally off topic, but that Studio Ghibli like section of films where you're like, oh, this is really pretty and kind of fun, but nothing fucking happens in this movie.
Yeah. There's a pig and he flies a plane and that's about it. Flies by plane.
The last piece that I have for nostalgia wise, which I think is just kind of encapsulates that entire, you know, late 90s, early 2000s fantasy adventure is the score. The score, and I vividly remember, I'm like, oh yeah, like all the, you know, I could hum all the little tunes. And so rewatching it, I was like, yeah, that's right. I forgot. The score of this film is banging, you know? Jerry Goldsmith did the score. He's done countless other things. But yeah, that was one thing that really, I like it.
I've got 2 that I'll just quick fire off and then we can move on, unless Julia's got more. But rescuing of Evelyn, like the whole actually raiding the temple to get her back from Imhotep. And there's one scene in particular when Brendan Fraser is fighting 2 mummies and he goes to swing his sword and like, you know, bash the mummy in the head or whatever he's trying to do. And when he pulls back, he accidentally decapitates one of the mummies and rips its head off and then bashes the mummy with said head. Fucking great. Comedy gold. And then my last one is just that entire riverboat attack and escape. Just because it's like totally unhinged madness. Like
shoot him out. Yeah.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it's like we're playing cards with the Yankees, you know, and like we're having like a pissing contest with like, I bet you I'll find the temple before you do. And then out of nowhere,
on
bandits
a boat
and fire.
They rode their horses onto the boat. Allegedly.
Yeah, because there's like, I could be wrong, but I think there's a horse on the boat too.
I'm pretty sure there's a horse on the boat.
Well, the scene just before that shows them slowly, you know, on the boats in the river, like little canoes. But then, somehow a horse ends up there. Yeah.
They were just keeping him in the bottom of the boat. Need him tucked away.
Well, do you guys have any worse scenes or moments you would, wish weren't in this movie?
I had a couple, but they all have the same kind of theme. Any given time that Evie was just kind of manhandled.
Yeah. This movie gets a little handsy, a little misogyny.
That was the one thing, like, watching it for the first time, almost 30 years old, it's kind of like, oh, Evie, stay away from the bad men. Bad touch. Just the assorted kisses, first with Brendan Fraser. I mean, it is Brendan Fraser, but I don't think I would want to kiss a dirty prisoner.
No.
And then she falls in love with him. It's like, I don't know that this person has met very many women, because that's generally not how that works.
Yeah, he's like, it's more of a nitpick, but he's just like an utter douchebag to her too. And so it's like kind of, probably not that I was ever successful with any of this kind of tactic anyways, but it's definitely like, seeing at a young age, it is one of those things where you're like, oh, like, treat a pretty girl like dirt and they'll stick to you like mud is like the message they're trying to do there. And it's like, oh, that's fucking gross and doesn't work and is super toxic. No. Let's not do that. Because yeah, he's just a dick the entire time. And she somehow is like, I mean, I get that he saves her life and stuff, but when they kiss, I was like, no. They shouldn't end up together.
Then Imhotep kisses her in her sleep and asks her, like, oh, we could have gotten the camels for free if you'd given them your sister.
Yeah.
He's like,
if you would have just sold your sister into like sex slavery, we could have gotten some camels and found the treasure.
Worth it.
Yeah, I think though, by like, not that it makes anything better, but I think by like 90s standards, I mean, they did a good job of just not like, oh, she's just pretty, but also like, oh, she's highly intelligent. She's, figuring out all these things. And there's even that moment where she's like, oh, take that, Cambridge scholars. Like, you guys got it all mixed up. And, I translated the hieroglyphics correctly.
Yeah.
So it tries to do that. Be like, no, look, guys, like, she's really smart and, and this. And then even some of Brendan Fraser's stuff towards her, I kind of took it, I thought about it really hard, and I kind of took it more as like, because he doesn't necessarily ever put her down. He kind of just elevates himself up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, which is still, again, not the best thing in the world, right? But he's never, because they even make a point to differentiate between that, because there's the line that Jonathan Hyde says where he's like, what does she know? She's a woman, Yeah. And Brendan Fraser never says anything to that extent. It's not necessarily about like, oh, you're weak. It's more about like, oh, well, I'm the cowboy. I'm strong. Like, I've been in this kind of situation before, which again, isn't the best thing in the world. But again, by 90s standards, I felt like, it was trying to be healthy masculinity, but didn't quite get there, unfortunately.
They were tickling it. They were just tickling it.
Like, they were like, hey, this is a cool idea. Let's move towards that direction.
Phoebe was definitely a cool character. I just always was kind of like, stop it, leave her alone.
Sure.
Yeah, and then speaking of like 90s standards, like, yeah, she is super intelligent. She like kicks ass. She like stands up for herself. And then I feel like, because it's 90s standards, like one of these studio execs like puffing a cigar was like, the bride's too powerful. You got it. And no. The mummy gets her in the end. Yeah. And it's like, no, but she's cool. And she's like holding her on. It's like, no, the mummy gets her in the end. And it's like, okay, the mummy gets her in the end. Fine.
He's reading through like, 3/4 of the script. He's like, when does she become the damsel in distress?
Yeah, exactly. So, when can we tie her up and almost see her tits?
Yeah.
I was waiting for boobies and I didn't see no boobies.
Which we'll get to that later too. My big one is just all the fucking CGI. It's so like, and I get it, like, it's what we were working with at the time, but it's also one of those like testaments to like, dude, like there's a couple scenes where you just throw a little bit of makeup on somebody and it's gonna look 10 times better than like, oh, we didn't track this correctly. Like that looks like it's floating above his face. There's a few things they do where you're like when he like opens his mouth wide as the mummy. It never
looks fully connected.
No, it looks like someone literally is using like a, by today's standards, it looks like an Instagram filter almost, like a Snapchat filter of like, oh, like, yes, he's doing the mummy mouth, but today he could be doing the cool, like, sexy little thotty with dog ears kind of, because it looks the same. Like, it's the same technology. Yeah, exactly. He could have cute anime eyes for no reason. Yeah.
I think there was a moment in like the opening scene where it was obviously like the first big like pan in shot. You're seeing everything is entirely CGI, but it cuts super sharply to like real footage. And the transition is like, it's like taking off in a jet airplane and then coming to a sudden screeching halt. Like, what? Wait. Okay, never mind, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to delve more into that when we get to the nitpicks, because I have something to say about that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, and then we touched upon it a little bit earlier too, but just things I wish I could forget. The scarabs. I think everybody's kind of like, I wish I had just never been introduced to that idea.
No. I think it's cool. Like, I think it was a great like concept as to make your movie different and like talk about fucking staying power. Ugh.
Yeah.
And arguably the best CGI in the movie.
But yeah, moving right along, we'll get into today's cocktail. Today we have the Imhotep Elixir. It's a little riff on an old school cocktail that I found called the Little Cairo. So we have 1.5 ounces of cognac, 1/2 ounce of lemon, a dash of Angostura bitters, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. I'm using a house-made sweet vermouth that has a lovely honey finish, 1/2 ounce of sherry, and finally, a 1/4 ounce of Cointreau for a nice little vanilla kiss. Shake well, and look out for scarabs.
Rim it with mummy dust.
Yeah, rim it with mummy dust. Yeah, you got me that.
Salt acid.
Yeah, some salt acid.
Oh, that's what I should have done. I should have just given you guys like a fucking glass of lemon juice with 1 pound of salt in it.
Salt acid.
Salt acid, guys. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
Melts your lips as you drink it.
Beware. Pharaoh's curse.
I think the salt acid was supposed to be like salt fired out of a high pressure cannon, because that would actually take your skin off. But I don't know.
Well, they did say it was pressurized.
Okay.
The tomb was sealed, so like trying to justify 90 science. Yeah.
It's salt acid.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick little ad break and try to justify the salt acid. We'll see you in 1
You
second.
guys want to drop some salt acid?
Yeah. What are you oh, bro, what are you doing this weekend? Dude, I got a couple tabs of salt acid. All right.
You're real salty.
Oh, well, on that note, hopefully we come back from this ad break. And we're back with Act 2, the evidence board. Trivia, making of, behind the scenes, casting what ifs. I'll just hit you with the facts real quick. Released in 1999, this movie cost $80 million to make. But
$80 million?
Yeah, I mean, dude.
It was a big blockbuster.
Yeah, CGI scarabs weren't cheap back then. But yeah, it cost $80 million, but it brought home $416 million.
Oh, that's a bit much.
Yeah, no, literally I have it like as a little trivia thing here. I guess on opening day, like they were seeing like, theaters sell out. And so Stephen Sommers, the director, literally got a call from Universal the morning that like tickets were sold. And he's like, gotta make a second picture, kid. It's like, oh, okay. Let me see if Brendan's available.
Like, no, you don't understand. It's happening.
No, we own him and we own you. You're making a second one. But yeah, written and directed by Stephen Sommers. Universal had wanted to remake The Mummy since the late 80s. They're still kind of sadly on that kick a little bit with like, I think that dream has died though. But yeah, they wanted to remake it since the late 80s. George A. Romero of Night of the Living Dead fame.
Yeah.
Clive Barker, Joe Dante. These guys were all signed on to direct throughout the years. But all of their concepts and scripts were deemed too dark or violent for the source material. Because like Universal was like, no, we need to put butts in seats. Clive Barker, for the last time, you can't have the mummy like rip skin off and then do like some kind of weird homoerotic sexual dance.
Can't rub it between your legs. And...
You can't just cover Pinhead in fucking bandages. Like, we can't do that. But yeah, the film was, it was basically like scrapped, the concept, until Sommers, of all people, pitched it as an action-adventure film that could be quote-unquote family-friendly. The second it was not a horror film, Universal greenlit that son of a bitch as quick as they could. They were like, oh, money? Perfect.
It really does manage to capture that like old school, super campy horror film kind of vibe. Like it's got everything that you would want from like a classic horror film, but with like 90s sensibilities.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. No, they did a great job balancing those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a not so fun fact. Brendan Fraser almost died making this movie.
Yeah. Baby boy, the hanging scene, he had to be resuscitated.
Which, like, I read that and then watched the movie, and when that scene came, I was like, oh, fuck! like that would like took me out of my seat for a second, knowing that like
that
is not like a dummy or a stunt actor. That's like Brendan Fraser actually dropping by his neck in the wide shot. It's like, oh Jesus Christ! What are you? You also see the like the gap behind underneath his legs, and you're like, what the fuck were we doing, guys?
Yeah. Well, like for filmy theater typey people out there is a way to do a hanging and make it look pretty legit and have the actor be safe. You have harnesses and all sorts of things, and it's Gucci Grande. Not so much, it seems, in this case.
No,
they were just like, Brendan Fraser, you've got a thick neck. You got a nice thick neck right there for you, bud. How do you feel about dropping thick neck?
Yeah, I didn't look into it, but I wonder what happened. Like what in terms of like did they use art? Was it not on right? Or
I don't
like,
know.
What?
I think it was literally just. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but yeah, I think it was like they were like, oh no, we're using like really soft, like gentle kind of nylon-y safety rope that isn't it's not a real like freaking.
Maybe it had some bounce to it or something. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know why the word's escaping me, but whatever real rope is made out of hemp. There you go. It's not like a hemp rope. It's like just elastic or something.
Yeah.
And also probably cutting corners, sadly, or something.
Yeah,
like
unfortunately, you hear a lot about that. Just even unfortunately to this day of just accidents on set. Glad he was okay.
Yeah. Another fun fact, unless you have one, Chuck.
I have a lot, but go on.
Another fun fact, and I kind of picked up on this. I was like, this doesn't look like Egypt. And it was not, in fact, filmed in Egypt. Egypt was too unstable politically at the time for them to actually film there. So a lot of the scenes are filmed, there's one scene that was filmed actually in England, and then they just edited in the pyramids behind the pier.
No way.
And
you're telling me like that CGI sand was CGI?
Wait a second. I thought it was real. You're telling me those scarabs are fake? And then a lot of the other scenes were filmed in Morocco. There's one, the car chase scene in particular was, I think, filmed in Marrakesh.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually were like, okay, please don't wander off of set because this thing is like a rabbit's warren. If you wander away, we may never see you again.
Yeah, on that note, Morocco wasn't that much safer than Egypt at the time either. And Universal actually took out kidnapping insurance on the principal cast and crew. But yeah, no one got kidnapped or murdered. The only real major threat on location ended up being dehydration and sandstorms and snakes and scorpions and all that kind of fun stuff of shooting out in the freaking desert.
And they conveniently did not tell any of the cast or crew that they had taken out kidnapping insurance on them until the film had wrapped. So can you imagine getting that call and being like, oh yeah, I'm like, the kidnapping insurance is good. So like, you don't even have to worry about that like coming in. Oh yeah, we just took out some kidnapping insurance on you guys. Like, it's no big deal. You didn't get kidnapped.
Rachel Weisz being like, hey, what's this thing from Allstate saying it's time to renew my kidnappy, don't get murder stabby insurance.
Kidnappy,
also,
no stabby.
Also, what's up with Allstate writing everything in baby talk?
Another little factoid, mummy factoid. Real mummy Egyptology OG kids who grew up with the picture book will know that's not how you take a mummy's brain out with red hot poker. Just so that everyone is aware of how a mummy is actually made. It is not through scarabs and wrapping someone up with scarabs and putting them in a box. I know, shocker. You pack them in natron salt and take out all their organs. You take out the organs first and you scoop out the brain. You turn it into a nice little soup and then you just drain that sucker. And the whole process took an awfully long time. They would sit there in the salt just dehydrating for 40 days. And then there would be a few more preparations to, get them all wrapped up and prettified. And you might have incredibly complex, beautiful sarcophagi. And so it was definitely like a rich person's game. But it was no scarabs were involved. No flesh-eating beetles of any sort, thankfully. But a lot of salt. There was a lot of salt involved.
I've got two last ones really quick. We can wrap this section up. This is one of my favorite ones. Universal was so dead set on a PG-13 rating that there were constant mandatory check-ins with the effects team and the editors to ensure that there was no gore or blood during any of the fighting scenes or like zombie CGI or any of that. It was like, no, this is going to be as clean and campy as physically possible. Also, speaking of clean and campy, Rachel Weisz's white nightie.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest,
got wet during the boat scene. And Universal's like, oh, no. So they like painstakingly digitally censored her like top essentially, because there's like a couple, I guess, angles where you can possibly see a little something. So yeah, it's like, nope, no nudity, no sex, no blood, no nothing. This is a family reincarnation murder movie. Damn it.
Ironically, Angostura was actually full boobies out.
Right.
Most of her costume was like painstakingly painted on, and apparently she was in the chair. I believe her name was
Patricia Vasquez.
Yes, Patricia Vasquez.
Velasquez.
Use us. But Patricia Velasquez apparently would sit in that lovely little makeup chair for 4 hours, getting into that pretty much boobalicious costume.
Yeah, like Mystique from X-Men level, like body paint nudity suit.
Yeah, pretty much. Although apparently they then had to painstakingly paint in a little bra, a little bikini top for when it was shown on TV. Because God forbid someone see a nipple.
For alternative casting, I just have one. Leonardo DiCaprio was the first choice for O'Connell, but he turned it down because he was busy making a much bigger movie, The Beach. Which I've read a few things about The Beach. That movie, like, that fucked his career for a hot second. Like,
there was a couple
Leonardo
of things he turned down for that.
Turned down a lot of cool stuff to do The Beach.
Yep.
And I was like, no. We're going to do this weird, like, island fever, thruple-y, like, sexy, racy thriller that no one's going to see.
You know what? Sometimes you're young, you're horny, you need a paycheck, and you're like, I'm going to go for The Beach instead.
Yeah, there was other alternative castings too. I don't think any of them got as far or as serious with the offer as DiCaprio, but I don't know if you saw those. But it's everybody that you'd expect in the 90s. So they had Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Chris O'Donnell, Matthew McConaughey, Kurt Russell, Sylvester Stallone, and Bruce Campbell.
Oh,
Sam Raimi expressed interest at one point.
Nice.
So he would have brought him on.
Yeah, I did see that the whole reason why Brendan Fraser got cast is because the casting agent randomly went and saw the Disney live-action George of the Jungle.
Oh, man.
And was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Brendan Fraser is like, it's kind of buff. He looks really good with some long hair and like swinging off a vine. Let's put him in a mummy movie.
And thank God they did.
For usual suspects, I have two. I didn't do a ton of research in this section. But Odette Faher, who we've already talked about, was in Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, with William Forsythe, who is in Blue Streak. And then my other is also a William Forsythe connection. So yeah, as we said, William in Blue Streak. We have Kevin J. O'Connor, who plays Benny. He was in Virtuosity. Have you ever seen Virtuosity?
I have not.
It's so fucking good. In the sense that like it's just a bad 90s action movie. It's like Denzel Washington and I think Russell Crowe is a bleach blonde villain.
Oh boy.
I think it's Russell Crowe. Could be wrong. But it's them basically like, it's like a cat and mouse thriller through like virtual reality. But anyways, yeah, both of those guys are in it. Both those guys in films we've covered on the show. All right, now back into the fun stuff. We got nitpicks. Thanks, I hated it. I've already said it, but yeah, all the fucking CGI. Like, just like, seriously, like, if we can throw poor little Patricia Velasquez, like, in makeup for 4 hours just so that we can, like, kind of see some side boob, and we can put the fucking mummy in a chair and just draw some little, like, spooky veins on him. Do something. Just, like, there's so many times where I'm like, if this was a real actor, this scene would be kind of spooky or have weight, but instead it's like, let's go, like, and it's just like, you know, they're like kind of poorly like reacting to a CGI monster.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things they kept saying over and over again is like, he can't just be wrapped up in gauze. That was something I kept seeing. It was like Steven Sommers apparently was very, very adamant, like, he can't just be a mummy in gauze. That's ridiculous. And it's like, well, maybe if he had just been a mummy in gauze at some point, just for like a minute, just for 1 minute, it might have worked out well. A little juicy guy.
Yeah, well, no, it's funny. One of the things that was frustrating about this film was that they did have both really good practical effects in this film. Like there's moments where I was like, oh, oh shit, that's really good. And then just next scene is bam, CGI, just horrible. And so but they had that throughout the whole film. There's so many instances of really good practical effects. With, it's funny because they didn't want they made the mummy all CGI, but the mummy henchmen, like a lot of those were practical effects.
Yeah. And those were awesome.
Yeah.
Those read so well on screen. That was like what I was expecting, was like a lot of like feeling very Indiana Jones, very like Alabama Smith. Yeah. And, like very, I was looking for the practical effects. And anytime the practical effects were there, they were really, really, really good.
Yeah. And there's just like a couple silly ones too, where it's like, okay, so we can like hang Brendan Fraser and we can burn an actual boat.
Yeah.
But we can't turn a fog machine on. We're going to do really bad CGI mist here.
Yeah. And it was throughout the whole film. They just flip-flop back and forth. And so, it was weird because it was almost like they were, I don't know, like trying to make a statement like, ooh, look at all this cool stuff we can do with CGI, while also still putting like a lot of effort into the, so I don't know. That was one of the things that one of the few things about this movie that I had a bone to pick with.
One of the nitpicks that I got, other than of course Evie being tossed around, was I would say it's just very long. It's a very long movie and there's a lot of exposition happening constantly. And so as someone who was watching it for the first time, I did find myself at times when it was just a lot of like, you mean the thing? The thing from Egypt? Yes, the thing from Egypt. It was Tutankhamun's. Oh, Tutankhamun's Egyptian thing. Wow. Just kind of drifting in and out and being like, oh, here's the action. Okay, here I am.
Like, I think we get like, I remember watching it last night too and having that same feeling a couple times where I'm like, dude, we're like 45 in and there's no mummy yet? Like, there was a couple moments like that where I was like, what the? Okay. Like,
we meet the mummy for the first time as the mummy, I believe at the 55-minute mark.
Yeah.
You are a full hour into the film before you actually see Imhotep in all of his gunky glory.
See, that's funny. I actually didn't mind that. It didn't feel long to me. I did when I popped it in to watch it and I saw, oh, what? I'm like, 2 hours? I'm like, I don't remember this movie being 2 hours at all. I thought it was, your typical hour 20, hour 30. But then once I was actually watching it, like, I was like, oh, this did not feel like 2 hours to me personally. I felt like the pacing was good, and I enjoy all that kind of historical fact exposition-y kind of stuff. Like even when it shows up in like, Indiana Jones and other things like that, I love like oh, cool. Like whether it's true or not, I don't know, it just always piques my interest. And I'm like, oh, I'll have to Google that later and see what,
Another thing that I had as far as like a nitpick, I'm down to just kind of burn through some of these because I've got a few. Is just like white savior complex O'Connell.
Yes,
like, why is, Brendan Fraser leading the fucking Libyan army's invasion of Egypt? Like, that's like.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Also a nitpick for that one, I would say kind of in the same vein, is everyone was a caricature of a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like just the scene where the one American guy is like spinning his gun and like playing target practice with the like priceless artifact.
I enjoyed that though.
You know what? To be fair, that's probably the most accurate one. I have that in my notes to be real. When Jonathan goes, oh, Americans, I was like, actually, yes.
Like kind of got that one a little bit right, my guy.
Yeah.
So I like that they added that in there because they could have just ragged on every other kind of race, but then not left the Americans unscathed.
They could have made the Americans the straight man, but thankfully they just gave it to everyone equally. So it was, if it had been done less intentionally, it probably would have fallen flat. It's like a very small nitpick, but everyone is kind of, every so often someone would do something and it's like, really? I didn't know humans behave that way.
Why does Imhotep steal the only dude who wears glasses eyes? Because like there's the bit where when Imhotep first gets like brought back and he's like, I need your sight, brother, or like whatever the quote is. Mm-hmm. And it's like the guy who's like, my glasses, I can't find my glasses.
Yeah.
Like he's in full Velma mode, just on the floor. Yeah.
Wait, which side note? Chuck, as someone with glasses, one thing that when I watched the movie, I was like, you know what? That kind of trope shows up in a lot of movies. Is some people's eyesight like that bad? Like you really like you to the point you're like, I can't see, like you can't see his glasses right in front of him? Like, is that,
some people's are, but I think like I don't know. My eyes
so
navigate
much in movies.
at the very
my
least.
glasses.
my eyes aren't great, but if I was ever in like life-threatening danger, the glasses are fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like I can still like even if it's like we're full squiggles and shapes mode, I can be like, well, that squiggle is like
Coming towards
is coming at me.
You're
so.
still oriented in space. You
Yeah,
still
exactly.
know which way up is and which way down is.
Although as someone who does wear glasses, it is a bitch when you lose them because you're like, oh, I can't see where the things are that make me be able to see. There's also a bit in this where Imhotep is back and he's wreaking havoc in Cairo, and he turns the blood, like all the whiskey and all the water, to blood.
Oh yeah.
There's a bit where one of the Americans are cooped up like in their room, and it's like, well, shoot, like I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna go get a drink, Hoss. And it's like, but whiskey is blood now. You're gonna leave the safety of your room to go drink blood?
Oh, right.
Vampires.
Yeah.
There's a vampire subplot in this movie that we all missed.
I just have a few more really quick ones. It's easier to find the sacred treasure room in the temple than the one that Evie and Imhotep are chilling in. Like when she gets abducted.
Oh yeah.
They're like, searching for, and it's like, oh, this is where all the gold is.
And then they just stumble on the massive room of gold.
And then this one is more of like a casting issue than like a true nitpick, but I feel like Evie and her brother have better chemistry than Evie and Brendan Fraser.
I will say I picked up on a slightly kind of, is this West Virginia kind of vibe at the start of the movie.
That's right, yeah.
Where it's kind of like, have they?
Yeah, like when they
done stuff.
When they introduce Jonathan, like he's like hiding in the fucking crypt with the dead body, and he's like, well, hello dear, and like it's like it's very theater, like it's very big acting and broad and like theatrical, but it's also like a little too sexual and flirtatious for your sister, pal.
Yeah. Also, is it just me, or was the gentleman who played Jonathan American? I can't remember if I found that fun fact or not. I did look at the cast list, but
Sure, he was phenomenal though.
He was excellent. I thought he was great. I thought he was so funny. His timing was brilliant. Apparently, he actually did break his arm towards the ending of shooting, and that's why it was in a like little cast there. It wasn't the Beatles. It wasn't the Bugs.
Oh man. Well, speaking of not being the Beatles, we got to pay some bills. We're gonna take a quick ad break. And we're back with Act 3, the award categories. This is probably an easy one for everybody, but who won the movie?
I have two. Controversial opinion. Brendan Fraser, obviously, baby boy, sweet baby boy.
I have that one on there. Yeah.
Genuinely excellent, but also just like a fun performance. And then Arnold Vosloo, who played Imhotep, just because the amount of commitment that man showed to being a grubby little mummy was pretty impressive, honestly. Like I remember reading at one point that apparently they wanted him to play it really big and really like, expressive. And he was like, no, I have to play this super real and truthful because to Imhotep, in his eyes, he was like, it would be some kind of warped Romeo and Juliet story. And so it's like, oh, okay, I like that. Like, that explains why this character works well. It's like he really, really takes himself seriously, which you kind of need for a ghastly, immortal being coming back from the dead. Is like, he would definitely take himself very seriously.
Right, he's trying to bring back his love back from the dead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, he's got actual motivation. It's not just like, must kill.
Murder mommy. So I thought he actually did a brilliant job.
I also had Brendan Fraser on there, and I know he was in plenty of stuff before this, right? But it's pretty much universally agreed that this is the one that like quote launched him into stardom, even though that only lasted a brief amount of time due to his unfortunate kind of personal life stuff that happened. But this is the movie that just like was like, oh yeah, he's an action star and he's here to stay kind of thing. I had Universal Studios. Yeah, because they also did Jurassic Park and stuff, so they were on a hit with those blockbusters, and like you said, they immediately greenlit the second movie and whatnot. And then this isn't technically a win because he didn't necessarily blow up, but yeah, Kevin J. O'Connor, the guy who played Benny,
that's who I have.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, and I'm surprised that he didn't like get you got a couple more roles and like small roles, but nothing like memorable. Nothing like, oh yeah, he was the super awesome guy in that other movie because he's great. And he's white. He's a born in Chicago or something.
Yeah,
that blew me when I read that. I was like, oh wow, I was like, huh. I really thought he was of some sort of Middle Eastern kind of.
Oh,
he played it well.
His little bit parts were so funny, and his like timing was so good, and he played Slimy very, very well.
No, it's what I have. Yeah, I was like, for mine, I had like, well, yeah, Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz are perfect in this movie, but I gotta give it to Kevin O'Connor. Like, he's just so slimy, and he's like the one person in the movie who's consistently funny the entire time.
Yeah,
like I don't have it as a band name, which we're about to do, but I do have one of my favorite bits. He's like, I really liked the sand face. That was so good, master.
Oh yeah.
Bastards. Like, he's just like very like, he's just so good. Such a good little kiss ass. Which brings us to my new band name. Memorable quotes or references that would make a cool, edgy band name. And what genre would said band be?
Well, one I had was Fantasies and Hokum. And I think it would be... maybe like a nightcore band.
Oh,
like, doing some like very melodic metal, but talking about like, fighting dragons and, slaying beasts and things like that. So I had Fantasies and Hokum. I also had Juicy Mummy. Really like the idea of like a 60s kind of like, very, don't know if anyone listening is familiar with Shannon and the Clams, but ace band. Very kind of that 60s vibe.
Doo-woppy, garage rock kind of thing.
The Juicy Mummies.
Yeah.
As per usual, I've got a lot. So if you got any,
I actually have a lot this time. But if you want to just, we can alternate. Yeah.
Yeah. A little back and forth action.
Yeah. I'll go with 3 first. So the first 3 I have Hamunaptra.
Oh,
like an industrial metal band.
Yeah.
Kind of like, how do you pronounce it? Rammstein.
Yeah, Rammstein.
Yeah. Something like that. We're like Hamunaptra. Yeah. And then I have Descendants of the Pharaoh's Priests, which is a metal band for sure.
That would be like a black metal band.
Yeah. And then I have Loosen the Knot, from when he, the Brendan Fraser hanging scene, someone's Loosen the Knot, or Loosen the Knot and get me out of here, which is just like, it's just a local garage band, playing at like the Phoenix or something, but they're decent. They're decent. It's not a terrible local band.
Yeah, they shred.
Yeah, you want to give us a couple of yours, Chuck?
Yeah, I'll hit you with 3, and you hit me with some more.
Let's do it.
I've got 100 to Hang. They're a hip hop collective, but the exact quote is when Rachel Weisz is trying to get Brendan Fraser O'Connell, free to lead the expedition. Mm-hmm. The guy, his jailer, is like, no. Like, she's like, oh, I'll pay you like this, I'll pay you that. And he's like, no. I'll pay you £100 just to let me see him hang.
Yeah.
There
you go.
I've got Nothing Polite at All. They're an early 2000s like indie rock band, kind of like Phoenix or something like that. But yeah, the quote is, "Filthy rude scoundrel with nothing polite at all," is what the brother says about O'Connell.
Oh, right.
Like, yeah, when it's like Rachel Weisz is like, oh, it's like maybe like he is the key. He knows where he knows where the treasure is.
Yeah,
and, like, that's like how he writes him off. One of my favorite ones is Parkophagus. So they're a grindcore band. It's a reference to the way they discover Imhotep's sarcophagus is Jonathan is literally teeing rocks.
Yeah.
So par.
Nice.
And then it just bursts through the ceiling.
Yeah, par like golf and then sarcophagus.
That's right.
But yeah, I've got more if anyone else wants to go.
I have one more. Let's have the last thing that O'Connell says to Benny. Goodbye, Benny. That would be a Midwestern emo band, and they would open all of their songs with Mummy samples.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that's fucking great. That's a good one. I like that one. I have Complete Scoundrel, which is how he describes him. It's southern rock band.
Oh yeah.
I have Wrong Side of the River.
Ooh.
Oh, that's another good one.
Which is like an indie folk a la Mumford & Sons kind of,
Yeah.
And I have American Brethren. Which is, he says, oh,
be a
American
Leonard
Brethren.
Skinner kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've got Dream of Dead Guys. They'd be like mall goth, like emo band.
Yes.
The exact quote is, this is what I've been dreaming of for years. And Brendan Fraser's like, you dream about dead guys?
Yeah.
I've got Hardcover Holocaust. They'd be a deathcore band because when Evie first opens the Necronomicon, which also, I love that, like, there's so many goddamn movies with the Necronomicon
Oh, yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she says, well, no harm ever came from reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I've got is never eat, never sleep, never stop. They'd be a straight edge hardcore band.
Ooh.
The exact quote is, he is the harbinger of death.
Right.
He never eats, he never sleeps, he never stops.
Could also be a thrash band too. Like
Yeah.
some little speedcore, thrashy type band.
I was just thinking straight edge hardcore because I just picture every song having a moment where it's just the lead singer punching his chest and chanting. It'd be like, never eat, never sleep, never stop. Like, like that kind of thing.
I got Sounds Like Bugs.
Yeah!
Which is a shitty local punk band.
I love that, though. Oh, my God.
Garbage band.
I would listen to Sounds Like Bugs.
I would listen to Sounds Like Bugs.
Sounds Like Bugs.
No one can actually play their instruments.
Yeah.
Someone's definitely high at every single concert, but they sure do know how to whip up a crowd.
Absolutely. They're sweating before they even get on the stage.
Yeah, they're sweating before they even get in the building.
Also, it's the first time I'll ever challenge it on the podcast. What if they were like a glitchcore band too? Because it's like just every song is like really bad, crinkly synth that sounds like Beatles crying. Yeah. It's just like.
Oh, that's great. Actually, I'm gonna have to change that.
They just remix a bunch of Beatle noises, and it's like, this is good. This is music.
He That Shall Not Be Named.
Oh,
which is another metal band for sure. And Superstitious Bastard. Or sorry, Stupid Superstitious Bastard.
Hell
which
yeah.
is a funk band.
Yeah.
I love it.
That would be a good funk band.
I've got two last ones really fast so we can move on. I've got Right Palm, Wrong Path. They'd be a synth pop band. The quote is from Benny. It is better to be in the devil's right hand than in his path. And then my last one is All Eternity, Idiot. And they'd be a pop punk band.
Yeah.
Nice.
Benny is like, the mummy, he is taking your souls forever. And then Rachel Weisz is like, deciphering the hieroglyphics. And she's like, it's for all eternity, you idiot. Like, because he misquotes
the
hieroglyphics. Yeah.
She's like, he's translating for Imhotep. And she's like, no.
Got an updated movie title for 2023?
Ookie spooky, but what if it's Egypt?
Huh? I like it.
I have Curse of the Pharaoh.
Ooh.
Just because I maybe it was on the trivia somewhere, or I don't know, or maybe I just picked up on it. But right, the fact that Imhotep was not actually technically mummified, so he's not really a mummy.
He's not actually a mummy.
He's not technically a mummy. Because they only did like part of the process.
Yeah.
If that.
More of a snack.
Yeah. Because I first thought Curse of the Mummy, but then I'm like, well, no, it's not the curse of the mummy. The mummy's been cursed, technically, right? So it's the Curse of the Pharaoh. And it sounded kind of cool.
Yeah, the only one I had was just simplifying. I mean, the mummy's already simple enough, but I was simplifying even more and just calling it Imhotep.
Yeah.
Just giving, making it like just straight up saying Dracula as opposed to the vampire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just a picture of him like,
yeah. We have the Roger Deakins Would Be Proud Award for cinematography. For me, it is definitely the library scene. It's when Rachel Weisz accidentally knocks over all of the bookcases. They all fall in a perfectly timed panning shot. And in my research, I also learned that was done in one take because they were like, well, if we don't get it, we're not resetting this. So this joke either plays now or it isn't making the film. And they got it.
I love when things like that happen.
Yeah. For me, I have one that's, it's a mixture of cinematography, but also with, in addition to the stunt work and the CGI that was used for it, but the scene where it's raining fire, not when it starts because it's just like fucking CGI.
Yeah.
But then when it goes to the, it's a following shot. It follows the people running away, and you see the CGI fire come down, but then it turns into practical like stunt, like, and it's like it's in the same shot. So you see like clearly CGI fire, but then the second it touches the actor, it's like a real stuntman on fire. And they do that a couple times, like pow, 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 and people light on fire. And it's kind of a long shot. And that's the one that I fucking love. That I was like, oh wow, see that's how you blend CGI and like
exactly
practical effects. So.
The one that I really got, I think because it just for me took me back to like those classic kind of action movie, dramedy kind of things that you would watch as a kid, was the car chase scene through the bazaar. just like it wasn't, crazy. I'm sure it was complicated to set up all of those shots and to make sure that all of the timing worked out right. But more for me, it was the nostalgic thing of just like, oh, this is like, I recognize this scene, not necessarily from this movie, but from the references that it's making. And I like it for that reason.
Hell yeah. We have the Is That Channing Tatum in a Dog Collar Award, awarded to an actor with an unexpected cameo or bit part. I didn't really have anything. I cheated on this one. I'm giving it to Oded Feher, just because, I was like, second I saw him, I was like, oh, he's in this. Oh my God. But then I made myself laugh really hard because I looked him up on IMDb and I was like, oh, I literally know him from The Mummy. And so I'm excited he's in the movie that he's in. And then also, Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh yeah, he's like the actual quote unquote sexy gigolo in Deuce Bigelow.
I had Jonathan Hyde on there.
Nice.
Because I was like, oh, it's the dad from Jumanji.
Hell yeah.
I also always get him mixed up with Jason Isaacs for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because they're both British. I don't know. but I'm not sure.
British white dudes. It's okay.
Yeah. And I actually did recognize the pilot, Bernard Fox. Just because I watch a lot of like old like sitcom-y shows. So and I looked him up and I'm like, oh, I definitely know him from somewhere. I looked him up. He was like in I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, MASH, just like every TV show from like 60s to 80s. So I'm like, oh, I knew I'd seen him at some point pop up here and there, and like every fucking show, Oops,
that's super fun.
I think for me it was actually Rachel Weisz, because I had never, of course, I'd never seen this before, and so I was like, I think of Brendan Fraser when I think of The Mummy, and I think of Bugs. And when I realized that it was Rachel Weisz, I was like, oh my God, this is where she like. I don't know if this was her first big film or if it was like the first film that really kind of blew up that she did. Yeah, I totally did not have any idea that she was actually in this film. And of course, she's stunning and flawless and gorgeous.
Yeah. We've got, it's a sailboat award. What are the themes or bigger messages the director's trying to convey? Don't be a mummy. I was going to say, I forced the shit out of this one. I have, speaking of which, that's my message. If a relationship wasn't meant to be, don't force it. Maybe bringing about the end of days isn't worth a second chance at romance with someone that was actually just using you as a side piece. Because he is just kind of like, like the fun, like Sancho or like Bull in a cuckold relationship. Like at the end of the day, anyways, like their love was forbidden.
Yeah.
So who knows if it was just a flash in the pan to begin with.
I really had trouble with this one because the overarching message, it's to kind of dig to find it in that sand. But I think what I got out of it is that everyone should just watch more classic horror films.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any deeper meaning was intended at all.
No.
But they did a good job of kind of presenting, greed and imperialism a little bit. Just because it wasn't like everybody was on board with doing this. There was clearly so many moments of like, hey, we should not do this. Like, hey guys, don't fucking do that.
Mm-hmm.
There was even other little things like Jonathan Hyde's character telling the cowboys, no, let the diggers open it, open the sarcophagus, kind of like, oh no, they're expendable. They're, local foreigners, like, let them, things here and there, or even like, there's a couple instances where I was like, oh, that's nice. And again, lastly, I'll also still argue that they were kind of pioneering a little bit of healthy masculinity. They were trying. So
there you go.
Yeah, they in their own 90s kind of way. It's definitely, I would say, if you were to direct compare it to, other movies of the time, and you were like to shot for shot, scene for scene, look at like Evie's character versus other characters of that same era. I think they did pretty darn all right with everything, all things considered.
We have the Hans Gruber Death Fall Award, awarded to villains with satisfying death scenes. If anyone wants to jump in, I got it though.
I'll say mine because I don't necessarily have one. My take is I feel that we were cheated. There's no Hans Gruber Death. We were cheated. And I hopefully we're heading in the same direction, because Benny should have been that one. He should have gotten it. But the fact that they don't show it, I mean, me personally, I understand the whole leave it to the viewer's imagination. But there's certain times where I'm like, no, I want to see Benny just get infested with scarabs.
Munched.
And like that would have been so much more satisfying to see. I'm like, oh no, because they showed it with the other, some of the other diggers earlier in the film. They could have even made it just a little bit more kind of detailed or graphic, you know, still keeping in the PG-13, but just some kind of gnarly. Yeah, so we got cheated, but I would say it's technically kind of Benny.
Yeah, I had Benny as well, but I agree. I think it was a little flaccid. It was a little flaccid there at the end. Like it was. I think it was very satisfying in the way that it was set up. And you could definitely got the satisfaction of like, oh, you know, everything's come full circle. Benny's dead now. He's gotten munched by the buggies. But I agree. I think it would have been nice to, at the very least, like see him, you know, be consumed in bugs, even if you don't see any actual gore or any muck or anything, just kind of like something before it all fades to black. And you
crawling up him or whatever.
Yeah, just him like, you know, shaking beetles off or something, you know, like. Yeah. Something to give you a little bit more than just fade to black, crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yeah, I had to just give it to every scarab death just because those little fuckers are nasty. But yeah, I agree. Like, and speaking of flaccid, aside from Benny's death being flaccid, this is more of like a nitpick, I guess, than anything. Like killing Imhotep with like bad CGI pool of souls was just such a bummer. It's like, no, dude, like I want to see like the fucking, you know, I want to see this priestess brought back immortal, you know, monster actually go toe to toe with somebody. It's literally just like, oh, he gets stabbed in the chest and then falls into a pile of gobbledygook. That's how he dies.
Yeah, it was a little anticlimactic there. It was like, oh, I guess that's it.
Which the sequel so much more satisfying.
Yeah,
won't spoil it for you.
Okay,
but the death is so much. It's
better.
Kind of what
gives you more what you
we
want.
should have had.
It gives you what you need.
Yes.
Speaking of kind of what we're already on, let's go into controversial hot takes. What would make someone rewatch this movie with a different point of view?
I don't have one. I'll be honest. I
got two. My big one is, you know what? These white devils shouldn't be trespassing and grave robbing. You know, maybe they all got what they fucking deserved. Maybe don't go fuck with like somebody's property, whether they are like, you know, dead or not. And also maybe like, don't go into foreign lands and, you know, do your white guy thing and just be like, oh, well, they're not doing anything with this pile of rocks. Let's dig it up. Like, yeah. Maybe they all deserve to get eaten by scarabs.
Yeah, I think the only controversial hot take I had was like watching it as an adult as opposed to watching it as a kid. It's a little bit, you don't necessarily get blown away quite as much. And so I think if I were to say anything, it's like get a little bit turned. Have, you know, an adult beverage or two, enjoy some adult snacks or candies or smokables, and get yourself as far into the mindset of a kid as you possibly can, and you're gonna absolutely just have a riotous good time. But if you try and think of it too intellectually, you poop all over everything.
Speaking of pooping all over everything, my other hot take is Oksana Moon. You know, she got done so goddamn dirty. She didn't deserve to get killed by her arranged marriage husband the first time around, nor did she deserve to get brought back to life for all of 20 minutes to get murdered again.
Yeah, I want a buddy comedy movie where Oksana Moon and Evie go around digging up ancient Egyptian sites and working magic and eating people with bugs. I would watch that.
I would too. Speaking of movie alternates, time for another Spider-Man award. Do we need a remake? If one exists, is it necessary?
No, we do not need a remake, but I would absolutely be open to seeing one with the right directors and actors. You know, I actually have a little suggestion if I could put this in there. But for example, I would like to see them go a little bit darker, as originally, maybe not full blown, you know, Clive Barker, Wes Craven, you know, whatever. But but you know, but just a little bit darker. For example, I have like someone like Andy Muschietti who did the It remake, or something like that. You know, where you know you have that right balance, because they still have that right balance of like, oh, it's really funny and really humorous, so you could still have that kind of dynamic, but also like the scenes that are horrible are still like, oh my god, this is still horrifying.
Yeah.
Or even kind of ties in directly, but Lee Winnell, who directed the Invisible Man remake. Invisible Man, another, you know, monster from that era. So, you know, why couldn't he do the Mummy justice?
Yeah, I said we don't necessarily, it kind of ties into my Be Kind Rewind award, but we don't need a remake. I mean, we did try and fail in 2017 with the Tom Cruise one.
Shh, we don't talk about
I know, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about
Who is she?
We don't talk about Bruno, you guys. But no, mine was just like, yeah, dude, like, I understand that this is technically already a remake and a reimagining, but like,
Sure.
I want more of this. Like, stop giving me run into the ground IPs of like octogenarian Indiana Jones. Like, take a chance. Like, hell, like even make like a video game movie, like make a Tomb Raider or make like an Uncharted or something like in this. I just want more fun adventure movies that don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, they're either just, garbage IPs, or it's like a Netflix movie that nobody sees, and it's like Channing Tatum running around in the Sahara.
Yeah. Blowing things up.
And it's like, no, give me a fun, big budget, like, we're diving this biplane into the jungle, you know?
Give me Waterworld.
Exactly. Do Jungle Cruise right, okay?
Do it right. I mean, honestly, I don't feel like it needs a remake. The only reason I would maybe want to see a remake is, again, like the idea of seeing it done maybe more seriously, like taking, you know, a different kind of stance with it, and rather than being like the family friendly, super zany, wacky adventure movie, being like, oh no, this is like a serious horror movie with like, you know, real deep stuff going on. I'm blanking completely on her name, but the gal who did the Babadook, or
Jennifer Kent.
Yeah, Jennifer Kent.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
I would actually be very curious to see what she would do with this kind of thing, like what her take on it would be, you know, seeing a very metaphorical mummy. I'd be
an A24 mummy movie.
Yeah,
basically.
an A24
Ooh, you know what? I would be down for that if they made it in the style of like a retro, you know?
Yeah. It would have to be very specific, but I think I would not mind seeing something done where it's a little more highbrow, artsy fartsy, kind of like, you know, throwing in some metaphors and some, you know, like, oh, look, you know, the mummy, it's a symbol for life and death.
Exactly. We've got the Be Kind, Please Rewind Award. Good or bad? Is it worth a rewatch?
I would say so. Yes, I would absolutely. It's worth a rewatch. I would recommend it to people. I'm not cornering people at the bars to watch it.
No.
Do it. Watch the mummy.
but yeah, absolutely. Someone's like, hey, the mummy. Oh, you should check that out. It's pretty sweet. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I said absolutely. It's still super fun. It's a great action romp, and like, despite how much I dislike the bad CGI, it honestly adds like an extra layer of camp to it too.
Yeah,
it makes it fun to revisit, and we just don't make them like this anymore.
Yeah,
so get them while that you can, I guess. Because
I would say too, like, if you haven't watched the movie The Mummy before, it's totally worth it. Just make sure that, you know, again, you approach it with the innocence of a child.
If you guys are cool with it, I'm going to do a hard pass on the Neil Breen Struggle for Relevance Award. Unless you have something to say.
Mummies are always relevant.
Yeah, I have a little bit, but you kind of touched upon it, so I'll make it very brief. But just the fact that, we are still, like, as a society and as like a movie-going audience, I'd say for the most part, we are looking for really cool kind of like action-adventure kind of films. And the studios keep trying, but they're just hot garbage. Yeah. But you can tell because anybody gets excited, like when they did the Uncharted movie, things like that, you know, the new Indiana Jones movie, people are like, oh, okay, cool, like, let's see if we can get a good adventure in. You know, we're looking for that sense of adventure, but they just can't seem to get it right. So I would say that we are still looking for that. We have just yet to receive.
Yeah, I think kind of in the same vein, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, this is one of those movies where it kind of manages to capture that feeling that you want when you go to the movie theater. It's like, it's the same thing that I would argue, perhaps controversially, that what's it called?
Fast and the Furious?
Fast and the Furious. I want to say Night at the Museum, but it's not. National Treasure.
Yeah.
That National Treasure manages to capture as well, really well, where it's like, if you look at it under a magnifying glass, it is ridiculous. But if you just take it for what it is and appreciate it, it gives you everything you need, and it doesn't feel manufactured, which I think is unfortunately one of the pitfalls that a lot of modern action movies kind of fall into, and like modern adventure movies fall into, is that it just feels like kind of tired and recycled, and especially with how much CGI is used in action movies and in adventure movies these days. It's like, honestly, just watching it for the practical effects and the way that it's like integrated sometimes somewhat shabbily with the actual computer stuff. Again, it captures that kind of feel of old timey movies past. So I would say again, the only real theme that I took away from it, the only real kind of like movie relevance that it would have is like, it's a fun movie that doesn't take itself too seriously and doesn't try too hard.
We've got a raining day pairing. Best double feature for this movie. Under a blanket at home with some snacks.
I'll let you guys start off with that.
I said Scream. I said
Weird.
the first Scream. Yeah.
Holy
I said
shit.
the first
Left
Scream.
field as fuck.
Would have never crossed my mind.
No.
I'm very excited to hear this.
Yeah. I thought that the first Scream film would be like the perfect double feature because I think it plays the same tropes. It has that same kind of like very structured classic horror thing going with it. Again, also super 90s. And it's got that same kind of campy something that just makes it like delicious. And I think Scream pushes more into the horror kind of genre, but it's for me, it feels like the logical like cousin of the Mummy. It's like, if they were allowed to have like a slightly higher rating, they would have gone for a few more ooks and spooks. Mm-hmm. And for me, it just was like the first one that popped in my head. I was like, oh yeah, I would totally watch this and follow it up with Scream, 1 and call it a night.
Fucking wild. My choice is much more tame. I went The Road to El Dorado.
Oh,
the
yeah.
animated DreamWorks film.
Yes.
Because, yeah, it's very much kind of on that same vein of like, dudes questing for treasure. It's campy. It's lighthearted. And also a damn good watch.
It is.
So I kind of cheated on this one. A rainy day pairing. I always picture myself watching it with somebody else, right? Like I would never necessarily personally watch 2 in a row. It's more of like hey, we're on this train. Like you want to keep going kind of thing. So I would ask the person next to me, hey, was Brendan Fraser your favorite thing about this film?
Yeah.
If yes, then you guys can shoot me for this. We're watching Looney Tunes back in action.
Oh.
Yes.
Very adventure-y, very Brendan Fraser-y. And
yes.
it just, I think it's just the kind of perfect kind of next to like, let's just watch something with more Brendan Fraser doing his fucking thing. Still kind of has that adventure, Indiana Jonesy element. So it's like, hey, was the action adventure your favorite part? Okay, we're watching Pirates for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I'm engrossed in this world, or I want to see something like this again. This might be a hot take, but the Scorpion King.
Oh.
I fucking love the fucking Scorpion King. I
Yeah.
love it to death, and it's so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But it's just
No, that's a good call.
Oh, it's great.
Bunch of unhinged choices.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. Yeah, not to get too off topic, but Luke and I were literally just talking about Looney Tunes back in action.
Oh.
Neither of us have seen it, but we're both like, how have we not seen this?
Oh,
This looks batshit.
I've also never seen it, so maybe we all need to sit down.
Sign me up, guys.
Yeah.
Right up my alley.
Let us know if you want to see Looney Tunes back in action.
Moving right along, we got the Sonic Death Monkey Top 5. List changes weekly. This week we have, what are your top 5 all-time movies that feature a ritual?
Oh, okay. I've got all 5. I've got El Dorado. So that's another one. Same idea. Features a number of different rituals, and
right.
It's just a good movie. It's just a good movie. Also had Midsummer because I love Midsummer.
Yeah.
Nothing quite like a little breakup film.
Yeah. Nice.
Also had My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh.
Yeah, because My Neighbor Totoro, there's the ritual scene where they're raising everything up out of the ground, and they're kind of like
That's
doing
right.
that whole little thing. And there's a few different scenes where they pay respect to the big tree, and
Sure.
so that was one that I thought of. Also, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I believe it's when he's I want to say it's Galahad is at the house with all of the virgins, all the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also had the movie The Brothers Grimm.
Oh, yeah.
I've not seen that one.
My wife loves that
I love that
I know of
movie.
it, but I
I
have not
love
seen
it. It's like also made like late 90s, early 2000s. It stars Heath Ledger and I want to say Matt Damon. And basically is kind of like, what if the Brothers Grimm fairy tales in their kind of original creepy, deepy, ooky spooky essence started coming to life. Mm-hmm. And the Brothers Grimm had to, deal with all this stuff. So it's like a very cool reimagining of like medieval Europe, with a lot of like witchcraft and spells and things like that. Honestly, if you haven't seen the Brothers Grimm, it's a solid watch. If you enjoy Heath Ledger and like those 90s movies where it's kind of set in a different time period, but everyone is like, listening to their, rock man or something. And it's just a rock that you can tap music out onto or something like that. It's very that. You go shopping at a mall, but it's a castle,
Hell yeah.
Chuck, what are your top?
Oh, I'm diving in, eh?
Go for it.
All right. Well, my number 5. There we go. My number 5. I'm gonna be little film boy. Only for this one.
Okay.
My number 5 is Haxan. It's I saw it for the first time on the big screen during a double feature at like a cult night thing. It is a 1930s movie about witches and goblins and demons.
Ooh.
It's fucking, I think it might actually be 20s because it's public domain. So anybody can stream it, watch it, put it up on a like projector legally. No one will ever get in trouble.
Neat.
But it's super wild. It's like a black and white kind of like Metropolis, like Nosferatu, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari kind of thing. And yeah, it's just like very beautiful, haunting imagery. And like, yeah, if you're a little goth girl, like if you're secretly a teenage hot topic lady like myself, it's a great time. A lot of cool witches and demons and all that fun stuff.
I'll add that to my list.
Yeah. But getting back into more hot trash, my number 4 is Cabin in the Woods.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I got that one.
Yeah, the like full on ritual of like, there are giant beings that live in the center of the earth and we have to, sacrifice teenagers to them to keep them happy. My number 3, again, hot trash, Jennifer's Body.
Oh, that's a good one.
Never got around to watching that. It just didn't appeal to me.
Weirdly love that movie. I don't know why. It's like, to me, it's one of Megan Fox's finest films. I know it's not saying much. But yeah, there's like the whole plot of that movie is like super fun. The whole reason why Jennifer comes back as a demon is these shitty indie rockers sacrifice her thinking she's a virgin, but she's a filthy little slut. And so she comes back as like a sex pot demon, basically. And yeah, it's great.
Little succubus. Sucking your bus.
My number 2 is also Midsommar.
Nice.
It's just I'm a little Ari Aster boy, and you know what? I'm sorry. I know he's a fucking edgelord, but I still like it. And then my number 1, throwing it back to childhood here. My number 1 is Hocus Pocus.
Oh,
you got the Virgin lighting the black flame candle. Yeah. You've got like, Steve again, the fucking Necronomicon, dude, causing havoc every time.
Book. Yeah.
Book.
Nice. That's sweet.
Amok. But yeah.
I got 2 honorable mentions before my list. I have The Exorcist.
Hell yeah.
It was very hard to not have that on my list, but it just didn't make the cut. And then I also had Insidious. Is a seance?
Oh,
seance
yeah,
is a ritual, right?
Seance is a ritual.
Yeah.
And I'm a fucking.
I totally
love James
forgot about
Wan, so
Insidious.
Insidious. I was like, yeah. But my number 5, I had Midsommar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's got to be on there. Number 4, I am also an Ari Aster boy, so I have Hereditary.
That's another one I
Yeah.
didn't even think of that has a ritual.
Yeah, phenomenal. I have both of those 2. They're just on the bottom of my list just because they're so like heavy and bummers that I'm like I can't just throw it on any time.
Yeah.
But it's definitely has to be on my list. Number 3, Chuck, please don't kill me.
Uh-oh.
I have Evil Dead 2013.
Oh, dude, I fucking love Evil Dead 2013.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still haven't seen Rise. I really want to see Rise.
Yeah, that was a pleasant time.
Yeah.
Rise.
But no, dude, 13 is banging.
Yeah.
Honestly, that movie's super underrated. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh no, it was. Yeah, I was actually very. I was a little upset that they didn't kind of necessarily continue with that kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know this one's kind of like a soft reboot, but Rise was. But yeah, so I have that on there. Number 2, I had Cabin in the Woods.
Hell yeah.
Couldn't leave that one out. And then number 1, I got Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh, solid choice.
Yep, I could throw that on any fucking day of the week. It's fun.
Solid choice.
Solid choice, yeah. Hell yeah. Running the gambit. I fucking love it. But yeah, that kind of almost wraps it up here, bringing us to our epilogue. I feel like it's a pretty unanimous verdict. I I Let Live.
Let it live.
Yeah, I say let it live. Let her live.
Already touched on it. It's just like a fun action adventure campy romp and a bunch of hotties in it. So do you like eye candy? Do you like bad CGI?
You like a hottie with a body or a hottie with no body?
Yeah.
A hottie without a body.
But yeah, it brings us to guest pluggables. Do you guys got anything you want to share or talk about, promote on the pod?
Nope.
I love the like, ooh, you kind of had like acquisitive, like, where do I start with? Oh, wait, nothing.
Yeah, I got a something to plug. It's still very rough, still trying to really, get it seriously, running. But I'm always open to feedback, ideas, suggestions, that kind of stuff. I have my sort of reviews that I do for current films that are currently in theaters. The films are all right on Instagram. Has a link to my Letterboxd. So yeah, give it a follow if you want to know, should I check out that thing that's coming out, this Friday? Is it a fun movie to take people to? I'll let you know.
Hell yeah. No, I can happily say I am subscribed and follow. I did read your review of Asteroid City. I got to the spoiler mark and was like, no, I'm not doing that because I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, everyone check it out. Yeah, the films are all right.
And as always, if you're not already following us, please follow Nostalgia Killers.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, and definitely if it's not, if you're listening to this right now and maybe it's not your cup of tea, just share it with other people. If you know somebody loves movies or, just
send it to someone you hate.
Yeah, as always, I got to be a little whore and just say patreon.com. We are on there. You've got different tiers now. Luke set some stuff up that's super fun. So yeah, you donate, you get different stuff. We're working on, as I said before, kind of more fun, like physical swag too, like shirts and stickers and all kinds of nonsense. And yeah, just keep listening to the podcast, keep following along. We've got some really fun episodes coming up. We're coming up on our 20th episode, which is going to be our first visual episode. So look forward to Luke Lawn in really bad Kiss makeup because we're doing Detroit Rock City.
Oh,
yes.
And yeah, we're also probably going to do like a little, every 10 episodes, we do a slight format retool. So look forward to some fun new categories, fun new questions for our guests. And also, yeah, we've got some fun people coming up on the show too. I don't want to name any names because they might drop out. But yeah, keep listening to us, and that's about all I got for you. Yeah, we have been the Nostalgia Killers. As always, I am Chuck Starzenski.
I am Javier Martinez.
And I'm Julia Kaplan.
Bang, bang.